to bum me out, but as you may have guessed, another friend with cancer has passed away. Just to get an idea of how awesome Doug Sparling was, you'll see that this episode's guest, Leanna House of the Thanks for Cancer podcast, and I talk about him at length. And keep in mind that this interview was done well before either one of us had any idea that Doug might pass away before I had the chance to get this video up. Doug had stage 4 prostate cancer, but was so much more than that. He was an artist, a techie, a photographer, lover of old buildings, musician, father, husband, and a friend to a great many in the cancer community. Just ask anyone who attended his regular virtual tea times on Twitter or followed any one of his many online projects. I had many conversations with Doug about the joys of pho, goofy TV comedies, his dog Gandalf, and of course, hugs. He was also a very loyal supporter of my videos, with a preference for my more strange moments. So with that, prepare to get weird.
So what I wanted to talk to you about first and primarily was the idea of cancer gatekeeping. I first heard of it as sort of cancer envy. I kind of like cancer gatekeeping more just because it makes it feel more spiteful.
How about suffering Olympics? That's my favorite way to describe it. As it applies to cancer, you have a lot of people that are like, oh, you had cancer, but you didn't go through chemo. Is that really cancer? Or you had cancer, but you didn't have surgery, or you didn't have radiation. So just setting these artificial gates along the path of cancer to like keep the filthy casuals out, the casual cancer patients out, like the logical fallacy of the one true Scotsman. Like you're not a real part of this group unless you fulfill these completely arbitrary and completely made up and sometimes not even true requirements.
I think that's the general public in general. I mean, they hear cancer and they assume, oh, are you going to die? And then if somebody says, well, not today, they're like, oh, okay, so you don't really have cancer. You're all better now. It's like...
And anything that adds up to 3, the sum adds up to 3 is divisible by 3, and I think it's divisible by 17. I think 17 times 3.
9, yeah, so it'd be, it would be 3 times...
21, 7, 21 plus 30 is 51.
I recently did an episode with a woman who was, she was diagnosed with a grade 1 brain tumor, and brain tumors are graded, not staged. So anyway, there were some people who reacted to that episode saying, well, she doesn't really have cancer if she's grade 1. That's benign. And it's like, meanwhile, she has way more deficits than most people I know that are of any grade. She has severe body paralysis and all sorts of other issues.
This has been a total transformation. Life transformation, and it really puts everything in perspective. Love, loss, life, recovery.
To be honest, I don't know your full status in terms of breast cancer, if you are NED or still in treatment.
I'm NED.
So you don't have real cancer then?
No, I don't.
I was joking when I said you don't have the real cancer, because I think, the big part...
Oh, I don't even give a shit. Well, like 1 in 3 women who become NED after cancer treatment, 1 in 3 of them recur, I think it's within 5 years with metastatic, and then you're fucked. The cancer gatekeeping really, really bothers me because I feel like the people who are actually suffering are not the ones who are telling you that they're suffering. Like it's like when someone tells me that they're smart, like I automatically know that they are not. People who are actually smart don't have to advertise it. Honestly, I think it's one-upmanship. Anytime anyone is like, oh, I had it worse, or like plays that game with me, like, I'm sorry, I lose all respect. Because like, why would you even want, like, I never want to engage in those kinds of conversations, but I don't think that a lot of people can control it, because with cancer, you are an open wound. You're hurting, you're raw. Like, you can just tell by talking to them. And I feel the same way about the suffering, because the people who I see who have like suffered the most are not playing that game. They're just living their lives and talking about their lived experience. Like, for example, I think Doug, like, he could maybe come in, he could medal in the Suffering Olympics, but he doesn't like cancer gatekeep. He doesn't like pull that shit. And like, you could win the Suffering Olympics.
So basically you're saying I'm a winner and a champion.
Yes, but to win at cancer, you have to like come in last.
My particular variety of cancer is like something like 1 out of 400 million people get it. That protect. So yes, I did win the world's worst lottery, but I did win the lottery.
What is the end goal? Like, what is the end goal of all of this?
Anyway, I want to come back to what you were just saying about Doug, because Doug certainly, I know he's been a great influence on me. I saw him sort of commenting a lot on sort of like breast cancer posts and things like that, and pushing other, and I looked at him and I was like, he has prostate cancer, why is he doing this? I'm like, oh, like then it kind of sunk in. It's like, we're all kind of connected. So I think he taught me that lesson in a lot of ways, that like there's something to be learned from everybody kind of going through these horrible things. I mean, we all suffer in our own ways. It's not just because somebody is NED or, running 5Ks every weekend or running marathons or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that all is right in the world. There's a lot more to it. I saw this meme a long time ago, but it really stuck with me. The idea that I think a lot of people who are dealing with cancer and other illnesses, they tend less to sort of play up their symptoms and deficits. Instead, they tend to play them down, just because they don't want the attention. They want to be left alone. And I think of Doug Sparling, who, sometimes he talks a little bit about some of his physical issues and things like that, but like, for me, when I read his post and he says something like that, like I wonder how bad is it really? I feel like he's not necessarily like dwelling and overplaying anything. I feel like if anything, he's underselling what he's actually going through and the amount of medications he's on, what he deals on, just the fact that he has a not very great diagnosis. In general, we're not trying to outdo anyone, but when we say like, oh, I'm a little tired today, or I have a little bit of pain in my fingertips, or, it's generally, we're just saying because it's that bad that we feel the need to say something.
I want to be clear that like talking about your own pain is not necessarily participating in the Suffering Olympics. And I do really appreciate when people talk about what they're going through in an open and honest way, because like I had no idea what to expect going into cancer, even though I had seen my mother in it, because there wasn't a lot, and I would argue there still isn't a lot out there of like real open, honest discussion. So when people share their pain online and get support from other people who are going through it, and are able to like communicate their real lived experience for the next generation of patients, like that is something that's super valuable. But when people talk about, oh, you you haven't really suffered. Oh, well, you know, you might have a little bit of neuropathy, but I got my fucking leg cut off. Like, that's not helpful. Like, you're not building a community. You're just like putting up unnecessary fences around something that's already awful. And there's definitely like different sections of this cancer pigsty, because you know, maybe the previvors are like over by the entrance, whereas stage 4 is like with the pigs in the slop. Like, so we're in different parts of this, but like we're all in this together.
I'm guilty of it, where there's been times where like I will kind of pile on and talk about all the horrible things that happened to me and that I experienced, sort of to, I mean, I guess not to necessarily make people feel bad. Well, partially to make them feel bad, but make them feel sorry for me, I guess, just as a form of attention. Do you think that there's anything to this sort of suffering Olympics in terms of like where people kind of like to say like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have the real cancer. I have the real cancer because I have chronic pain and I gained 200 pounds and, you know, and it's like I have this fear of death. You don't have to worry about death, whatever.
Okay, so I think that it's a totally valid form of processing, is talking to people about, listen to this horrible thing that I went through. At the same time, I think a lot of people do get stuck in the suffering aspect of cancer, and that can be physically, because you're actually having to go to different doctor's appointments, you're actually having to get multiple surgeries, so you're physically stuck in the suffering. And sometimes it's mental, because you can't, it's like you're stuck in a rut and you have to get yourself out, and that's not easy. The more I think about it, like, the crazier it becomes to me. That people even like, I mean, I guess if you win, you get, I don't know, do you get a better cancer card? The cancer card is just not all that it's cracked up to be. Get like a Visa Platinum instead. It's gonna take you way further.
I don't know. My cancer card got me a whole bunch of coloring books that I never filled out.
Did you give them to your kids, or are you?
Yeah, actually, my kids. I take that back. I did do one or two of them just because I was really bored one day, so I actually did bother to color in a few things. But then I gave them to my kids. So.
Did anyone like give you money, or I got a lot of cards, which was nice. But, like,
I'm not complaining. I mean, my GoFundMe did all right, but you know, it got us close to what we wanted for our goal. We've already spent all the money, so on cancer treatment, not on just random whatever. But
the treatment was really cheap.
For those who aren't familiar with that, pinkwashing is the idea of sort of cutesifying breast cancer, you know, save the tatas and things like that kind of make it less scary.
Specifically to advertise or to sell something.
And obviously breast cancer is one of the cancers that is, you know, the most front and forward in the sort of public conversation, at least people being aware that it's a thing. and I think they're in general tend to be more prone to support that because they've heard of breast cancer. Do you think that sort of marketing and cutesifying has helped sort of towards that end? Or do you think, as you mentioned before, like say the metastatic breast cancer folks and other people who have maybe darker and scarier stories, at what point do we need to kind of put on the kid gloves to talk about cancer, or should we not at all put on the kid gloves? Should we just let it all hang out and let people know just how awful it really is and all the different levels?
If people knew how bad it was, like, no one wants to talk about it anyway, even with all the cutesifying. Like, no one wants to talk about cancer. It's totally a conversation ender. And like, people don't know how to handle difficult things. So if we didn't cutesify it, and if there wasn't marketing of cancer, like, no one would talk about cancer at all.
I was just thinking about, now that I'm done, I think, like a lot of friends and family, expect and really hope that you'll be done talking about cancer. And sorry.
I am very wary of any cancer advertising because so much of the money goes back into what they call awareness. And like, I don't think that we need awareness for cancer. Like, at some level, it will get people into, early detection. But on the other hand, like, someone with breast cancer. Everyone does. 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. Your mom probably is going to get breast cancer. Sorry, guys. Do we need more awareness, or do we need money going to research? And I do think that stage 4 needs more, because stage 3 cancer, breast cancer, will not kill you. It will progress to stage 4 for sure, and then it will kill you. So really, if we want to end this problem, and if I want to solve my own problems, it's, as a stage 3 cancer patient, I don't want money put towards stage 3. I want the money put towards the cancer that will kill us. So I hate pinkwashing, and I hate just the whole anything surrounding advertising with cancer. Like, I don't, in my personal opinion, like, there's no way to do that tastefully, because any organization that is that's spending money on advertising so that they make money, and that just feels so skeezy to me.
Just because X brand has pink labels on their yogurt that month doesn't necessarily mean that anything's going towards actually funding cancer research or towards a cure. It's a talking point, and maybe you'll be more prone to buy that yogurt instead of that other brand yogurt, because this one, they obviously must care about breast cancer.
I do think that the walks provide a way for cancer patients to invite other people to like go through this process with them and all of that. And it doesn't like, I don't judge anyone else's coping mechanisms. Like, I have no high horse. My high horse died of cancer. What we need is like systems that take care of people, so that we don't have to have a GoFundMe, so that people don't have to go online to like beg to live, so that they can pay for these medical procedures. Like, what we need is a system that takes care of people, not these, random little, kind of sort of helping cancer organizations. Like, I just feel like the fundraising is so scattered and not helpful. I don't know, and maybe I want too much and I'm too idealistic, but I don't think that if after how many years have we been doing walks, and has Komen been raising money, and we're still, I'm a little bit of a doomer because I've done way too much research into cancer and medicine and the progress that we've made. But like, I still feel like we are at the same place that we've always been.
For someone who doesn't like pinkwashing, it sounds like a lot of these ideas that you're talking about are what I would say are commie pinko ideas.
Oh, For
you know,
sure. My dad calls me a pinko commie all the time.
I consider myself a commie pinko or pinko commie, whatever, but same difference. But I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe pink is the color of empathy and caring about your community.
We need to, as a society, decide how much people deserve. And I think people deserve to like get taken care of when they're sick. Like that doesn't seem to be a radical idea to me. Like we should take care of people if they're sick.
I don't know. That sounds awfully dangerous to me.
It does. It's a slippery slope. Next would be like feeding people if they're hungry. Who wants that? No one wants that. Cancer is the most boring thing about everyone I know with cancer. Like, you are not interesting because you had brain cancer. Like, you are interesting because you're like, oh, I'm just gonna make a video and keep making videos about brain cancer and...
Tell me more.
Cancer is the most boring thing ever. Like, when people tell me their cancer story, and like I want to honor it and I want to hear like what they're saying, and I want, you know, because it's a part of like processing it and stuff. But like, okay, so you found out you had cancer and it was shitty, and then you got treatment and that was shitty, and now you might be okay but maybe not. Like, we'll see. And like, that is everyone's cancer story.
No, the idea you had said cancer is really boring, or at least people's cancer stories are boring because everybody has sort of the same story. That got me I started listening to a lot of sort of cancer podcasts and watching stuff on YouTube. And like, one thing, I became highly irritated with most of them. I mean, Thanks Cancer, I think, is actually one of the few actually entertaining cancer podcasts out there, because it doesn't sort of, I think, dwell in sort of the things that I dislike. Like, it seems like so many of these cancer podcasts and YouTube series are just like, they're really boring. I'm interested in the topic and I'm bored, so I can't imagine people who don't have the experience, how they react to them. I mean, I only force myself to listen to them because there's stuff I'm curious about, because I'm in it and I know a lot of the details. But I don't know, what are your thoughts? Do other cancer podcasts suck compared to Thanks Cancer?
Me and Mimi always say, like, if cancer is the most interesting thing about you, like, get off my boat. Like, I don't want to be friends with you, because, like, I mean, get something else interesting. Like, pick up a hobby or something. But I say this as someone who has, like, 2 Twitter accounts related to cancer and a cancer podcast, so...
You know, I don't know what your Thanks Cancer's listenership numbers are like. Mine are not great.
When me and Mimi started the podcast, I'm like, look, if I get out to 100 people or 200 people, that's 200 people who are going through the worst time of their lives, who are comforted or entertained or distracted by the content that we have, and that's enough for me. You are selling cancer, right? Like, I think it's a hard sell in general to get people to listen to something that's terrible.
Oh, they're talking about cancer. I'm not interested. Bye. Too scary, too real.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure. And you know what? Great. Like, I don't want those people listening anyway. This is not for them. If they're gonna get scared off from saying the word cancer, like, namaste the fuck away. Like, that's all there is. Namaste the fuck away. Like, namaste the fuck away. Like, namaste the fuck away. Like, namaste the fuck away.
If the 100 or 200 people hear it, that, you know, I mean, I know for me, like, I've gotten to the point where I keep doing it because, number one, I feel like it helps me just to be, I mean, this is what I did professionally for many years, not doing a YouTube series, but making entertainment content. Number two, it leaves some sort of record for my kids. They can kind of see how my brain ticked, because I may or may not be alive in 5 to 10 years from now. And then thirdly, like, I'm fine with getting, say, 150 or 200 views if the 150 or 200 people that see it are the people who need to see it. If I didn't have cancer, would I want to watch this? And if I didn't have you know, if somebody who doesn't have cancer came across this, would I even want them to watch it? Well, I don't know. I think one thing that kind of, and maybe this is a form of cancer gatekeeping or suffering Olympics or whatever, is one thing that gives me a little bit of comfort is that, like, I see a video put out by the American Brain Tumor Association or the National Brain Tumor Society, and it gets like 5 or 6 views. Like, it's like, these are these huge organizations and they're not getting it. They're getting less attention than I am.
We're just lighting a torch in the darkness. That's what we're doing. And it doesn't matter if that's one person or 10,000 people, because like I don't know any of these motherfuckers anyway. I say that, but like it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And as long as you're putting out quality content, and as long as you're like entertaining yourself,
basically what you're saying is that we are better than everybody else, but I'm a little bit better than you.
You are the best at having brain cancer. How's that? Have you engaged in the suffering auction?
I did early on in my diagnosis with somebody, and then they were like, yeah, but I might die in the next 6 months, and like I have seizures like every other week and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I don't have it that bad. I was kind of like, just because somebody seems fine and normal, like, I don't know, you said last time we spoke, like online, it's just a highlight reel, and everybody's highlight reel can look great. And I assume because his highlight reel looked great, as I didn't know all this other like horrible crap that was happening to him on a very regular basis. So I kind of learned my lesson early, but I have my bad days too.
In my opinion, as soon as you walk onto the auction floor, you have already lost because you're in the suffering.
If I'm going to be the worst, have something horrible, I might as well be the best at it. In this case, being the best is having the worst situation. So I kind of think that sort of the motivation is like, oh, at least, I have permission to really sort of drown in my sorrows.
Yeah, it is a funny thing, and it's something that everyone does at like one stage or another, and it's just such a funny quirk of our biology or psychology or something, because we continue to do this and like wrap our identities up in this suffering when, I don't know, like the suffering Olympics is not healthy. And if anyone is like in the sound of my voice can hear and is participating in the suffering Olympics, like get out as soon as you can, because there are way better, literally anything else. A sharp stick in the eye is better than the suffering Olympics. Like get out.
At what point do you think it is okay to rank it? I mean, like, it's like my mother, and I don't know if I choose or not, but.
Never mind.
I do think that this is a really important topic, and I do think that your videos are amazing.
Thank you. And I agree that I am amazing.